Well, hello, folks. This is going to be weird. Actually, it's not. It's going to be fun. Hi, my name is Keith. I've been a guy who's cooked for himself since I was a teenager. Just the way life happens and the things that I love to do. This came about, this whole concept of this idea of a cooking show came about because a friend of mine was going through a life transition and had no idea how to cook for himself, asked me for some tips. I gave him some, off he went. And it's called third season cooking because I tend to think of things as this. We have seasons in life. And our third season is sort of that adulthood where you may be going into a different life situation with a partner, without a partner. Your third season might be you're moving out from home into your own place, or you just want to learn how to cook for yourself. That was the start. The second one was, and I'm going to start doing stuff here because I've tried to prep things along. The second one was coming from cooking shows always sort of show you stuff in different steps. I haven't found any that show you how to do things from beginning to end. That's my intention. So over here I've got an Instant Pot with some broth that I started earlier on today. And now here I am. I forgot my chicken. I'm gonna get my chicken. Hang on a second. Just watch that stove. Yes. I'm still on camera. You can't see me, but I'm still on camera. Okay, here we go. I'm back. Okay, I have here a pot of broth or stock. I don't know which one you're supposed to use. I've read somewhere that stock has flesh and broth has bones. Then I started thinking, what happens when you have veggies? I'm just making a vegetable broth, or is it vegetable stock? Yeah, I still don't know. Anyways, so this is the Instant Pot. I started this earlier today. I put it on for 40 minutes, and now I'm just going to pour it out, save the vegetables and bones, and I'm going to basically just put it through a small strainer and clean it up. Okay, I am going to rinse this off and reuse it immediately because it's not just enough to show you how to make stock, it's what to do with it. And there's all kinds of reasons I've been thinking about doing this for quite a while. That comes to where and how we do things and why we do things. And as I think about it, the things I like to cook, people I like to cook for, the reasons I like to cook, and a lot of it has to do with saving money. A lot of it has to do with making the most of what you got. So here we go. Ready? This is like the bones of a Kirkland chicken. So every time I buy a Costco rotisserie chicken, I debone it and I keep all the bones. I do that because I use it for stock. How easy is that, right? You throw it in, Bob's your uncle, now you got stock. Okay, I'm just going to reach in reverse. Now I tend to like having kind of an Asian flavor with my stock. So I'm going to throw a couple of star anise pieces in there. You don't have to do that, of course. It's just what I like to do. It gives it a neat flavor. If you've been for Vietnamese pho, you know there's a real subtle hint of anise in the flavor. As always, bay leaves. Bay leaves add this really lovely flavor to stock, and who knows why? Nobody knows why. I've never heard a good explanation of it. So the beautiful thing with making your own stock is you can use whatever you want to. I have a bag in the freezer of frozen veggies that are pretty close to dead. Okay? So what I do, because you probably have in your freezer somewhere, you got all on a binge if you were going to try making something And by the time you got around to thinking about making something, you realized the veggies were kind of dead in the fridge. So some old lettuce, some old potato peels. When I peel potatoes, I say the skins. That's some celery, a mushroom, some of the woody part of asparagus. And then what else I have in here? I have some parsley stems from when I have parsley, and some dead celery. That's enough. Okay. So I'll just put that over there. To that, we want to add a little bit of fresh veg. So I have just a red potato, and that's going to go in. I like potatoes in stock. It gives it a sort of a rich flavor. Looking for my compost bin. It gives it a rich flavor and some starch, nutrients. Next, just gonna peel a carrot. I like carrots peeled. Some people don't. It's up to you. You do you in your kitchen, and it'll work out okay. Especially for something like stock, I don't think you really need to worry about it a whole lot. And then I'm just gonna clip off the ends. Away they go. Put that over here for now. Cut that up and it goes. Onion. I'm going to do two things with the onion. One, it's going to go into the stock. Two, it's going to go into the soup that I'm going to make tonight. Okay, and so I'm going to do all this while I'm talking with you, and in a later segment, I'm going to have a drink with you as well, because I'm going to pour myself, the way I would do this if I were cooking for myself, for my family, I would do both things. I would have both cooking and having a beverage. Half an onion. If you're making a full pot, you might want to use an onion. You can use more onion, less onion, up to you. You do you. Okay. Now, salt and pepper. I'm going to go grab pepper. Hang on. So, unfortunately, in my prep, I forgot to grab the salt and pepper that I use for broth, but I got it now. So, I find when you're making broth, I just use peppercorns. So, nothing fancy, nothing special. 6, 8, 10. If you like peppery food, add more. If you don't like peppery food, add less. Travels through Mexico, picked up some sea salt. So I like to use sea salt because it's what I got around. You're free to use whatever you want, whatever kind of salt you want to. Add as much or as little as you want. That was probably 8 to 10 peppercorns I threw in there, and that was probably about a solid tablespoon or so of salt. I tend to cook with less salt. My wife doesn't like a lot of salt, so I tend to cook with less salt. Basically, that's what you got. Okay. To that, we're just going to pour in, this is a half batch, so I'm only going to use about 3 liters or 3 quarts. A liter is like a quart. You can hear the dogs in the background, don't let them bother you. They're kind of into the silly phase of the day. And there we go. So I filled it up to the half line on my Instant Pot, no big deal. You're free to, if I was doing this as a only one of for myself, I might add a little bit more of everything, including water. Put that in. I'm going to hit my button for water for soup that I've set the setting to for 40 minutes. And that's going to cook for 40 minutes. So an Instant Pot builds pressure, then it cooks. Once that gets hot, and then it goes for 40 minutes, and then it decreases. I like to let it completely empty of pressure on its own, and that gives you your pot of broth, and that's what I strained earlier on. And I just poured that over the floor. That was a bad idea. Okay, it's broth, trust me on that. Let's deal with that right away. Otherwise the dogs are going to come in and have a field day on that. All right. Cooking in the kitchen. All right, we'll deal with that. So, next we get to how do you make soup? There's a million different soups, and most of them are really good. This is the way I kind of do soup. The way I start with a lot of soups. This is this is like an infrared electric stove. It's not induction. It takes a while to warm up. And these stoves work kind of an odd way, so you get 100% power for a short burst of time. I've got it set between 2 and 4 on the 2 elements. So that means it's going to get 30% power. It's going to get 100% power 30% of the time. So just going to let that pan warm up a little bit. To that, I'm going to add some butter because we're going to make a bit of a cream soup today. If you're interested, and I hope you are, we're making a roasted sweet potato soup. I found in the freezer some roasted sweet potatoes that I made and mashed up from earlier in the winter. It's March. And I went, okay, if we're gonna do something, let's make this because it's a nice rustic winter soup. So I like to mix a little bit of oil and butter. I'm using olive oil. You may have noticed the price of olive oil has skyrocketed since last year. It's just about double. You have two things going on. You've got inflation going on, and you had a massive crop failure, and I'm still trying to figure out if it's a tree failure or a crop failure. Whatever it is, there's been a real challenge getting olive oil, and it's still plentiful, but it's pricey. Lottie. Used to be $7 a liter, and now it's like $14 a liter, if you're lucky. Yikes. Crazy. Okay. If you've watched videos with people, this is one of the things that drove me to do this. Watching different TV people, chefs of various kinds, cutting onions. And you ever see them doing it, like they make these cuts like this and this and this, and then they do this and this and this, and then they do this, and they end up with a dice, and they go, wow. I don't cut onions like that. When I was a wee young teenager, my job was to cut onions. And I would cut about 50 pounds of onions every shift, okay? And we would never do it that way. What I do is I cut in any way you want to. Cut the onion one way, turn it 90 degrees, and just slide and cut it this way. Now you'll notice a different thing as well from most most TV chefs. I'm not doing that. I don't understand that. I never have. It's really annoying. I've seen a home chef actually bend the tip of their knife cutting onions like that. What I do is just let the curve of the knife here slide up and down the cutting board, and that way there's two things going on. One is it's a lot easier on your knife. Two, you curl your fingers in, and it's really hard to cut yourself, even when you're working with little itty bitty pieces of onion and you are concentrating on your onions because you don't want to cut yourself. Just saying, ain't nobody want to cut themselves. We're going to stir our oil and butter a little bit because it's getting nice and warm. And then we're going to add the onions to the oil and butter. And if I was mic'd differently, you would probably hear the sizzling going on. The other thing is, because I am doing this myself, you get the one view. So you don't get to see more. That's how you end up with spilt broth. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are a great building block of a sauce of any kind. And again, we're just going to let the knife do the work, slip them through the mushrooms. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it is that we can save money, how we can eat well, how we can have fun. And for what it's worth, when I was a wee young lad going through university, by that point, so when I was 18 to 24, by that point in my life, I'd been cooking for 5 to 10 years because I started cooking when I was really young. I started when I was, sort of in my 12, 13 age. For various reasons, including the fact I love to cook. Never been to culinary school. Never called myself a professional anything other than an instructor. I'm a retired college instructor. And which means we are going to talk about some collegey stuff at some point down the road. And we're going to just pop this in. So, onions are frying, mushrooms are going in, and we're going to let that cook up a little bit. It is one of those things where it takes a little while for this to happen. So we're just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper at this point because that helps with the overall cooking. And doesn't add a whole bunch of flavor, makes things interesting. So if you've made it this far, we're up to about 16 minutes or so, 11 minutes. What are we up to? Yeah, 16 minutes. If you're making this at home for yourself and you're thinking to yourself, okay, don't forget, I've done two things. I've got the broth going over here. I've got the broth over here that's pre-made that I made this afternoon. So I pour it up. And I'm cooking this up. So, because if you're a working person, working mom, working dad, your kids are coming home, you gotta take some time to make food. But think about if you're sharing your life with somebody. Well, while you're doing some of the stuff, they can be doing other things. They can be cutting up the veggies. They can be scraping down the carrots for you if you're making more of a carrot soup. They can be doing, you can be catching up on your day. That's kind of the fun of cooking in a kitchen for other people, okay? Or yourself. Man, when I lived alone, I cooked a lot for myself because I just loved food. And your freezer is your best friend because you can buy stuff and either freeze it in Tupperware or freeze it in Ziploc bags or just freeze it in saran wrap. I've got a vacuum sealer, so I often, buy things in bulk and then seal it. So if I see chicken on sale, I'll buy a family-sized tray of chicken. I'm cooking for two. I'll buy a family-sized tray of chicken, and I'll freeze 8 of the 10 chicken breasts. And if you've ever noticed, often things like ground beef, pork chops, chicken breasts, chicken thighs, the nice little package is $4, $5, $6 a pound, but the big package is $3, $4, $5 a pound. So it's often $1 or $2 cheaper for the larger pack. And if you buy the larger pack, just freeze it down, parts of it, separate it out, freeze it down, and then just think ahead or throw it into the sink and cook it there. Okay? Now apparently I'm not good at showing things up there, so that's kind of what my onions and mushrooms are looking like. Kind of good. Okay? Now, I may not tap my knife, but I tap the side of my pan a lot. I'm going to throw in a little bit more butter. By a little bit more, I'm talking about a teaspoon or a tablespoon or so, a small pat. If you're using butter sticks, about a 1/4 inch of butter stick. If you're not, just a bunch more. And all you're doing is you want to get this frying up a little bit more, getting cooked in a little bit more, and getting to the point where you can add a bit of flour. What we're doing is I'm building a roux, but I'm building that roux with the purpose of making something immediately with it. There are times when I build roux that are just the roux and then I'm going to build a white sauce from it. In this case, I'm just wanting to add a little bit of structure to the soup because I'm making a bit more of a cream soup, and so it's a little bit trickier to get right because you build the roux, and to save steps, because again, people are busy. You want to build. I like to build the roux in the pan I'm making the soup in, and I'm sure there's real chefs out there that are cringing, going, "You can't do that. Why not?" Well, it works for me. Also, if you're in a rush, it works for you. So I've added about a tablespoon of flour to that. Maybe 2. Probably 2 to look at it. It doesn't matter because you're just adding in some flour to soak up the fat, to blend with the veggies. And we're just going to let that cook a little bit more because the flour needs to cook out slightly. I'm going to add just another couple of cracks of salt into that because the flour is bland and we want to give it a bit of flavor, so we're going to. I'm going to reach for something that I have that you may not. That's tahini, which is this lovely Mexican, Central American flavoring, a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of lime flavoring. It really adds some neat flavor stuff. And right now, my pan is the flour and butter and oil and veggies are making it a little bit thicker. Okay, so you want to thin it down. Now, you don't have to do this. You can use straight up milk at this point. You can use straight up broth at this point. I'm going to splash in a little bit of white wine. Every now and then I buy a bottle of white wine, or red wine for that matter, and it's always what I want or like. There's very rarely leftover wine. It's usually stuff I really don't like. And I just leave it on the side of the counter for cooking it. Probably about a year ago, well, it's March, a year and a half ago now, thinking about it, I ended up buying this wine on a Black Friday sale, and it wasn't that bad, but like when I went back to it a couple, 3 months later, it was awful. Ugh, it's terrible. For drinking, it's actually great for cooking. Again, chefs are going to cringe because they're going to go, now you can't use wine you don't like for cooking. Why not? Right? Buy the cheapest wine you, this is counterintuitive, buy the cheapest wine you can, but kind of like the flavor of it, and enjoy it. Yeah? You don't have to spend, I mean, let's put it this way, I'm never going to spend $20 on a bottle of wine and cook with it. That's going down my neck, not into the pot. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a bubbly sauce going on here. I'm just going to add a little bit, a couple of cups of my broth that I just poured out. Stir that up so that it kind of blends together. And if you wanted to, you wanted a mushroom and onion soup, if you want to sort of settle this in, you can add more to this, and you could end up with a bit of a soup there. Add some cream to it, some cheese. Glad your uncle, now you got mushroom soup. However, as I said, I found this in the freezer earlier, and this is roasted sweet potato soup. Roasted sweet potatoes, and I put a little bit of tomato in there when I roasted it up. And I'll tell you on another show how to do that. And then I'm just going to add that to this pot of soup, and it's going to thicken it right up, and it's going to add a bunch of roasted sweet potato flavoring to it, and then we're going to thin it down with, once we blend it together, with more broth and some cream. I'm going to use coffee cream because that's what I've got, but if you wanted a thinner soup, you could use milk and it would be just fine. You don't have to go out and buy special creams. You can, but you don't have to. Okay. No, that's mostly dry. Okay. So we're going to just blend this in, and as you can see, we're going to do it this way. You can't see it. Trust me. It's a blob of orange and a sea of grayish soup. Okay? Grayish because it's the mushrooms and onions, a little bit of white wine sauce, and so it's not a whole lot of color to it. But as this orange sweet potato blends, everything starts turning orange. Okay? Now, as this is pulling up, what we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit more, add another 2 cups of broth. And I say 2 cups. I'm using a 1 cup measure, and it's not quite filling up all the time. So those 4 scoops was actually probably 2.5 cups of soup, of broth. Okay, we're gonna blend this in. We're mixing it together. And then to this, we're gonna add some cream. Now I use Canadian coffee cream, so Canadian coffee cream is just 10%. If you want to make it super duper fancy and super rich, use a whipping cream or coffee cream. I probably added in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 ounces of that. Just enough so that when I added it, you could see the cream starting to rise up on the edges of the pot. And for all intents and purposes, this is done. Now, last time I checked, that took 10 minutes to go from the frying up. The last time I said it was 16. That took time to go from the cooking of the mushrooms and onions to what is basically now a soup. Now, you could eat this right away. I wouldn't recommend that because you want a chance for everything to sort of blend together and meld together. And so, but what I am going to do is show you what it's like, because where the fun is in the seeing, not the eating. You'd think I would have what I wanted handy, but I don't. I'm just going to use this. So, this is not really a soup bowl, but what it is instructive of how things look. So I'm just going to skip out some. Now, not that you need to know this, but it's 6 p.m. and probably going to eat around 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. So this is what it looks like. It's a bit steamy, and you can see where there's the thick mushrooms. We've got a little bit of tomato from the roasted sweet potato and tomato mix. You can see some chunks of onion. Everything else just disappears into the soup. Okay. Oop, there we go. So, most of what I cook, I've learned how to cook over time. It's stuff that just comes naturally. We'll talk about this down the road because there's some really interesting educational theory around cooking that is hard to know. By the way, the Instant Pot is now, you might be able to hear or you might be able to see, the steam is coming out of the port. It's about to seal off and start cooking. A lot of stuff I do, I just do. I've started making recipes and things so that as I was planning to start doing this, I could explain it to people, and away we go. So, in about half an hour, we've gone from having broth and a pot to having soup. Prepped by having made the broth earlier, having the roasted potatoes earlier, sweet potatoes earlier, and you know, use your freezer to build things so that it's ready for when you need it. Time is tough. Time is hard. We don't have a lot of time, but you can do things so that you can have more time to make really good food and really cheap. Last time I was out at a restaurant, what were they charging? Like, I think a bowl of soup in a restaurant was like $9. Looking through the grocery stores, a liter of soup out of a grocery store is like $10, $11, $12 or more, especially something like roasted sweet potato soup. This is made basically from scraps. Okay, the onions and the mushrooms weren't scrap. The sweet potatoes weren't scrap when I roasted them. But you know, if you want to stretch your money, you certainly are totally free to keep going to restaurants. You're totally free to keep going to using Skip the Dishes or DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats or whatever you want to. None of these people sponsor me. So no one's ever going to sponsor me. I shouldn't say ever, but no one's sponsoring me. I'm doing this because I just want to share information with you. Here's the thing. This whole pot of soup, what do you figure? I don't know. I put wine in it. A couple, $3, $4. Oh, Instant Pot. Now it's starting to cook. It's got 40 minutes, so it's ready. And I still have a pot of stock to do other things with, make other sauces. I'm going to have another pot of stock because I made it for y'all so you could see it. And yeah, look at. We are in interesting times. Money's tight, time is tight, life is tight. It's fun to cook. You can do this for yourself. In your third season, whether you're 20 and you think you're in your third season, whether you're 50 in your third season, whether you're 60 in your third season, or somewhere in between, 30, 40, 50, 80. Come back to my kitchen. I'll show you more stuff down the road. If you see this and like it, you know, all the various things you're supposed to do, like the video, I'm going to get it up there. Come back, look at it again, ask any questions. I'm not a pro. I'm just a guy who loves to do this. A guy who likes to help folks. I can help you in your kitchen make interesting food for the people you want to impress or the people you just love and want to hang out with. The other thing is you get to eat food. Life is good. So I am going to give this a quick try because let's face it, although I've made it many times before, I don't know what it's like. Okay, let's see. Not bad. Probably needs more salt. You know. But the beauty is, you can always add salt later. So folks, thanks for shopping in episode 1. Episode 1, where's it looking best? Episode 1, in the books. We're going to post this. I'm going to post this. If there's anything you want to see me cook in the future, let me know. I'm going to share some of my things that I make, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much for spending almost 32 minutes of your life with me. You can skip ahead. You can skip back. My recipes can be something as simple as this, where I throw things together because it's just soup. It's easy. Or alternatively, I'll do stuff that actually needs recipes because there's certain things that really need recipes. Thanks for spending your dinner time with me. Thanks for spending 33 minutes with me. Hope you have a most excellent rest of your day. And yeah, let's enjoy cooking together. Cheers. Bye now.